All righty, shall we?
Let's go for it.
Excellent. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the 2025 AMS Weather Band Jamposium, or if you're new, welcome. This session is the Experts Talk Tornadoes with Rick Smith and our moderator, Marissa Ferger. Before we begin, I would like to address some of the guidelines for our webinar today. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the YouTube chat. That should be to the right of your viewing screen when you look at your YouTube. That we will have dedicated time for audience questions after the presentation, but as always, if questions arise during the flow of the program that fit accordingly, they would be addressed at that time. Additionally, all communications should be appropriate for a professional audience that includes individuals from diverse backgrounds. Please be inclusive and respectful in your interactions. And with that, I would like to introduce today's presenters. Rick and Marissa, thank you for joining us. Marissa has worked with the Weather and Climate Communications Group at Penn State University for 2 decades, where she produces and forecasts for the show Weather World and teaches courses in weather communications. Hailing from a small coastal town in New York, she credits Hurricane Gloria with fostering her interest in the weather. And with that, Marissa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Gideon. Thrilled to be here today and excited to be a part of this program. Before I begin, since at the beginning of the last segment, they all gave their local conditions, and the rain has stopped here. It's cloudy and the temperature is warm to 45 degrees. I'm in State College, Pennsylvania, which is right smack dab in the center of the Keystone State. But enough about me. I'm so excited. If you heard earlier, it was the audience from previous webinars that chose the topics for today's events. And so, of course, tornadoes fascinate so many people, and we are absolutely thrilled to have Rick Smith with us today. Rick is the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Norman, Oklahoma, and he has been recognized for his work with several awards across his storied career. Rick has been a forecaster, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service since 1992, has worked at multiple offices, but has been in his position in Norman for about 23 years. So Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and to talk to us about what goes on behind the scenes when there are tornado events.
Hey, Marissa, thank you. And thanks AMS for putting this on. Always love the Jamposium. Happy to be here. I haven't checked the local weather. People always laugh when a meteorologist says, I don't know what's going on outside, but I think we're sunny, probably in the mid 60s today. We've kind of had a really bad bout of winter weather a couple of weeks ago, and now we're back up into the 60s and 70s. So everybody is happy about the weather right now. So anyway, we're going to talk about unhappy, not so happy weather today, but I think it's good. We're going to kind of go behind the scenes at a National Weather Service office to kind of show you what goes on. A lot of people never get an opportunity to be in an office and during a severe weather event. So we want to kind of show you what that's about. So put your questions in the YouTube chat, and Marissa will help direct them over here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Just as a quick reminder, I'm with the National Weather Service. National Weather Service is, of course, a federal government agency. We fall under NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and that falls underneath the Department of Commerce. Our mission, the reason we get funded, the reason that we are here, is basically to provide weather information to help protect life and property. And that's certainly what we're going to be focusing on, that part of our mission during the presentation today. Our office here in Norman is part of a network of 122 local forecast offices around the country. Every city, county, parish, independent city, person in the whole United States is covered by a local National Weather Service office who provides your city, county level forecast, warnings. And we're going to be focusing on the tornado aspect of our operations today. But no matter where you are in the country, your Weather Service office is engaged in similar operations, if it's a wildfire, a hurricane, a flood, whatever the case may be. But we're going to be focusing on what our office does during severe weather events specifically. Zooming in on the state of Oklahoma, there's actually 4 offices that cover the 77 counties. My office covers the western 2/3 of the state of Oklahoma, and then a small part of western North Texas. So for the rest of the presentation here, we're going to be focused just on that area. Now, when our office is fully staffed, it's not fully staffed now, but when we have our full staff, we have 6 senior meteorologists and 11 meteorologists. These are the most important positions in the office. These are the core of the warning and forecast operations. These are the men and women that work the rotating shifts 24 hours a day, every single day of the year, and are providing those important services every single day. There's a supporting cast behind them or underneath them that includes the management team. I'm part of that management team that helps the forecasters do their job. We have electronics people that take care of the radars and everything else, and we have administrative support staff. So that's kind of the makeup. Your individual office mileage may vary a little bit. Some offices have less staffing, but that's where we are here at our office. Weather service offices are staffed for a nice quiet weather day like it is here today in central Oklahoma. So that includes people working rotating shifts, and the numbers are going to vary at local offices. Each office kind of has their own way of handling the rotating shifts, but basically we have 2 people on a midnight shift, 2 people or more, 3 people on a day shift, and then 2 people on the evening shift. And then the forecasters will work a week of those shifts, then they'll rotate and work the next set of shifts and things like that. Interspersed throughout there, if we have enough staff, there's opportunities for training and professional development and things like that. So weather service office is not set up to handle a severe weather event, and it's just its standard default staffing. We have to do other things to make sure that we have enough people in the office. So we're going to talk about what it's like inside the Weather Service office during a severe weather or tornado event. But it's important to remember that the event actually begins days before. We don't just slide down a fire pole and start issuing warnings on the day of the tornadoes. We're there living the event for days, hours preceding the event. And we have a lot of work to do, even 7-8 days before the severe weather event. We have a partnership with local emergency management agencies, public safety agencies, schools, universities, all of our broadcast media partners, and we work very closely with them to give them additional information. This is supplemental to the information that everybody can see on our website and that we post on social media. We do special conference calls, we have email lists, we do webinars for these partners. And depending on the scope of the event and our confidence, those personalized briefings for our public safety partners may begin 6 or 7 days before the severe weather event. If there's less confidence, or if it's something that kind of doesn't show itself way out on the horizon and kind of sneaks up a little bit more, we may begin those the day of. But a lot of times we're doing those. And the goal of these is to give these decision makers in the local communities, at the state level, even at the FEMA level, the information they need to do whatever they need to do to prepare for that event, whether it's a school system changing field trip times or communities organizing their potential response to a severe weather event in advance. That's what that's all about. So we are working hard at that behind the scenes, but in the days and hours leading up to a severe weather event. We have to, like I said, we're staffed for quiet weather, so we have to supplement our staffing. And that means planning ahead. So in our office, we've gotten to where we do this days in advance now. If we see severe weather coming up on a Saturday, for example, we may start planning staffing days in advance. And this is just an example of a spreadsheet that we just use to kind of jot down who's working, their shift that they're supposed to work. Can they come in on their day off? Can they stay late? And so that's an important part of our planning process. Throughout this whole thing, you're going to hear us talk a lot about planning and preparedness. You know, we practice what we preach. We preach for everybody to be prepared for severe weather. We prepare in advance also, and this is just our way of doing that. So as we're ramping up and getting closer to severe weather event, it's making sure that the office is ready, the office as a whole, and staffing is an important part of that. What's the scope of this event that we're expecting? How long is it going to last? Do we have enough people? Who's going to do what roles? We used to just kind of do it on the fly in the middle of the afternoon in the beginning of the severe weather event. In our office, we do that sometimes the day before. So we will know the day before who's going to be the primary person issuing the tornado warnings, who's going to be doing social media, things like that. It can change, and we make plans, but plans will change in the heat of battle, but that we try to line that up in advance. We also have to take into account fatigue, and we talked about we talk about having the limited staff and only having a set number of people. If we have repeated days of severe weather, as we're going to see as in this case, it can affect the availability of staff. People are passionate and want to fulfill our mission, and especially the younger people will come in and work day after day after day after day. But after a while, you just can't do that anymore. We're making sure our equipment is up, our computer systems are working, the radars, the generators at the radars have enough fuel if the power goes out. No weather radio transmitters, observing systems, our communication systems, making sure that all of that has been rebooted and restarted, and everything that we need to be sure everything is up and running at optimal strength for an event. We also coordinate with our backup offices. Each weather service office has 3 separate backup offices to take care of our office in case we lose the ability to fulfill our mission. So if the power goes out and our backup power does not kick in, if we lose comms, if a tornado is threatening the building and we have to take shelter, or as is the most frequent case for us needing service backup, somebody somewhere in the building burns popcorn and sets off the smoke detectors, and we have to leave the building. That's the most common reason, but we don't want to do the backup, but we're prepared. And we also take into account our backup offices are Tulsa and the Fort Worth office. It's possible that all 3 offices can be impacted by this same severe weather event. So we have a backup office that's a little bit further removed in Lubbock. So we coordinate with all those. And something the Weather Service is doing a lot more of lately is kind of mutual aid, is helping our neighboring offices. So one of the events that we had last spring, we actually contacted the Lubbock office and offloaded some of our routine duties to them, because the routine products have to keep going out, the aviation forecast. So those don't get to stop just because there's severe weather. So we've been doing more of that mutual aid concept for sure. All right. It looks like I answered the question before it was asked there. So good. We also have to make sure that we are ready, the people that work in the office, and make sure that all of our family, friends, loved ones, pets, our lives outside the office are ready to handle whatever's coming up. I mean, we live here in Oklahoma. So when there's a high risk of severe thunderstorms in central Oklahoma, there's a high risk of severe thunderstorms for my wife, my dog, my kids, my house. So we have to do what we need to do to be ready. We're impacted by the events just like everybody else. I know on a severe weather day, and we encourage our staff to do this, you have to make sure that your home is ready, your family is ready, your pets are ready, so that when you leave the house and come to work that morning or whenever you're coming in, you have as much confidence as you can have, and hopefully a little bit less worry than you would ordinarily have about what's going on at home. I tell my family this is what's happening. They can tell from my tone of voice if it's just another severe weather day, if it's one of these. Really, listen, this is really a significant day that you need to pay attention to. Also tell them that don't count on me to be able to text you or respond to texts and calls. A lot of times I'll text the family and say, this is really bad, or you need to do this or that. On the big days like this, I don't want to say they're on their own, but don't wait for me. So those are kinds of things that we encourage. You have to be ready at home to give you as much peace of mind as you can have to be able to respond to what you need to do in the office that day. And it's weird being a meteorologist. It's weird doing what we do, because a lot of us are just geeky scientists. A lot of us got into this because we are interested in tornadoes and severe weather. People come to Norman to work voluntarily, and nobody's forced to come here. So if you come here, you kind of know what you're getting into. And there is that excitement about severe weather. Excitement may not be the right word, but anticipation. We train for this. We practice for this all the time. So when we see this on the horizon, we know this is an opportunity for us to do what we do. So there is that anticipation, that adrenaline, but at the same time, the other side of you is dreading it. You don't want anything bad to happen to anyone. You don't want anything bad to happen to your house, your family, or anything like that. So it's mixed emotions when it comes to that. Our job at the National Weather Service, sadly, in large part, is to forecast bad things. Now, we're scientists. We want to do a good job at work. We want our forecast to verify. We want our forecast to be accurate. We don't want to tell people there's going to be a tornado outbreak if we don't think there's really going to be one. So we are forecasting bad things. The mental struggle that goes on in your head, though, is if you're right about the bad things that you're forecasting, bad things are going to happen to somebody. There's a chance that if you're forecasting a tornado outbreak, if the tornado outbreak happens in a populated area, there may be fatalities, injuries, extensive damage. So in that sense, you want your forecast to be wrong. So there's a tug of war that's going on in the mental, emotional side of the meteorologist's head that says, we want our forecast to be a good forecast, but we also want it to fail miserably because we don't want this tornado outbreak to happen. So that's kind of there's a lot of emotional, mental health aspects to our jobs every day, but that's a big one in severe weather. And also, we are watching this event evolve over days. It's just like if you're a weather geek and you're watching every model run and you're getting up in the morning and seeing what the SPC did on their day 6 outlook. We're doing the same thing. We're living this event. It is what we're doing, ramping up. So we're looking at every day's SPC outlook as it comes in. We're looking at every new model run. We're looking at all the information all the way up until the day of the event. So in a lot of cases, and all that other stuff we're doing, I mean, as meteorologist scientists, we're wanting to do a good forecast, but we're watching the models swing back and forth, and it looks bad. Now it doesn't look so bad. Now it looks east of here. Nope, now it looks west of here. By the time you walk in the door of the day of the event to actually start issuing warnings, anticipatory fatigue syndrome, stress has really taken over. I'm exhausted sometimes by the day of the tornadoes because of everything we've already been doing all week. We've already worked hard on the event before any storms are on radar. So that is definitely a thing for sure. So we're going to focus on April 27th, 2024. That was a big severe weather day in a large part of the Southern Plains area last year. That's going to be kind of our case study for today. And this is a day that was well forecast for days in advance. This is the day 1 Storm Prediction Center outlook that came out that morning. And there's a large moderate risk area, which is at level 4 out of 5 as far as the risk categories go. And there was definitely a potential for strong long track tornadoes on this day. This was a day where the anticipation in our office and in the community in general was high because we had talked about it for so many days, and we were sitting all day on this Saturday morning and afternoon waiting for severe weather to happen. It didn't take long for it to start, and it ended up being a very, very long day for the office and for many people in the area. In this outbreak, which extended into the very early morning hours of April 28th, we had a total of 39 tornadoes in Oklahoma. Most of those were on the weaker end of the spectrum, but we did have 3 significant tornadoes in our area. Marietta, which is just on the Texas-Oklahoma border down south of here, had an EF4 tornado with 1 person killed. Sulphur, which is a little north of there, had an EF3 tornado with 1 fatality. And Holdenville, which is further north still, had an EF3 tornado with 2 people killed. So definitely a significant event. All the significant tornadoes, or most of the significant tornadoes in our area, were after dark. So we don't have very many pictures or very much video of any of these tornadoes. That's one picture of a tornado in Ardmore, Oklahoma, one of the higher populated areas down in south central Oklahoma that a chaser took. So this was a nighttime event, which makes things even more complicated, even more stressful from a forecasting, a warning perspective, and from a response perspective. Now, we talked about staffing. We did plan staffing in advance, but there were some unique challenges for staffing on this series of days in April. As we're going to see, we had a long day of severe weather that happened late on April 25th, extending into the morning on April 26th. So we had already had a bunch of people having to work extra for that event. This event was going to run from late Friday night and all the way through early Sunday morning. We don't have as many people in the office on the weekends. We have our core staffing, which is basically the same, but the management is not here. And the people on professional development shifts are not here that can just jump in very, very quickly. So we don't have as many people in the building here that can jump in and help with severe weather. So that was a challenge. So there's definitely concern about who's available after we've already had severe weather the previous day. We've also had people that it's not just the weather that day, but the weather the next day, going out and doing damage surveys. So we have to look at the staffing, look who's available, look who's off, look who's already worked 2 days extra, look who was out 12 hours doing a damage survey. So this is all behind the scenes stuff that you never know about or never are aware that's going on, but it's critical because these warning operations are all about people. We're serving people, but we're people here too, and we can only do what we can do, and we want to do it as efficiently and effectively as possible. So really, when you're trying to staff an office, a weather service office during severe weather, you need to beef up the staffing. You've really got 4 options. You can bring in the management team to assist, the warning coordination meteorologist, the science and operations officer, the meteorologist in charge, who can come in and help supplement and operations. We can have people that are scheduled to come in later today come in early. We can have people that are scheduled to get off at 3 o'clock, stay until God knows when in some cases, or we can have people coming in on their days off. So those are our options. When we're looking at the availability of people, this is what the puzzle that we're trying to put together. So we had an event the day before that was during the late night, Thursday, April 25th, early morning, Friday, April 26th. We had 18 severe thunderstorm warnings, 2 tornado warnings, not that big of an event by the standard of what we were about to experience, but it was 7 continuous hours of warnings from about 1 o'clock in the morning till about 8 o'clock in the morning. That's our absolute lowest staffing. That's the hardest time to communicate. So we already had people that had worked this event. And I went back and looked at the schedules because I want people to understand how many people it takes to do this. I don't expect you to read any of that or understand it, but basically, to work just this Friday, April 26th early morning event, the person coming in at 6 came in 2 hours early. The person that was supposed to get off at 11 o'clock last night stayed till 1 o'clock. We had 2 people that came in on their day off, one at 2 a.m. and one that came in at 10 p.m. Thursday night and stayed till 7 o'clock the next morning. So that's how you make an event like that work. So then we have April 27th, which is a bigger day, it looks like. So when you walk in the office, when I walked in the office in the morning of April 27th, by the time I got here and before we had ever issued a warning for this event, we had already done a live interview with CBS Evening News, or an interview with CBS Evening News. We had already done a couple of briefings for the State Emergency Operations Center here in the Oklahoma City area. Paul Goodlow from the Weather Channel was in the office, and they were doing live hits from the office in the back of our operations area. The phone was ringing off the wall with numerous public phone calls who are hearing the forecast and want to know what's the timing for their area. And this is always going on during severe weather. Numerous telephone briefings for schools, for public safety agencies, for any of our partners that needed information. And that would continue throughout the day. All of that was happening before we ever issued the first warning. And this was an unusual event in many respects, but we're not usually issuing our first severe thunderstorm warnings on the severe weather event at 9:50 in the morning. So that was kind of unusual. We had already had a tornado watch in effect since 6:30 in the morning, so we knew it was going to be a long, long day. We issued our first warning, a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, at 9:50 that morning. That would be the last time we would be without some type of warning in our area for nearly 16 hours. The last warning that we had for this event expired at 1:30 the next morning. So there was at least one, and then sometimes many tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings in effect simultaneously. We did set records, the most tornado warnings we've ever issued in a day, most severe thunderstorm warnings we've ever issued in a day, records you don't really want to set. And how did we staff this? This was a Saturday, lower staffing. Well, similar. We had, the people getting off the person getting off at 2 p.m. stayed. The person supposed to get off at 3 p.m. didn't leave till 10. The person getting off at 6 stayed till 10. Of note is the 5 meteorologists who were off that day, who came in and worked on their days off. None of them worked less than 10 hours. One of them worked a double shift, 16 hours on their days off. And this doesn't count the management team. I came in, my boss came in, the science officer came in. So we were staffed to the max for this event, for what we were expecting. And again, it took planning. We couldn't just call these forecasters the morning of and say, I know it's Saturday. I know you just worked your full 40-hour week, but what are you doing today? Or you want to come in and work? We had to plan all that in advance, and that's important. So this is a picture of our office, not on this particular day. I didn't take a really good picture that day, but during a big severe weather event. And then all the different workstations that are there, and pretty much every chair in the room is full. When we do this, we have kind of a plan in mind. We have a game plan of who's going to be doing what. And in our office, we kind of designate certain places where we're going to do certain operations. When the forecasters came to work this morning, they can sit wherever they want to. We don't have assigned seats. On a severe weather day, we organize, so we have the warning forecaster sitting in those specific positions to encourage close communication. We have the person that's in charge of doing NWS chat sitting across from them. We have a coordinator. We have all these people in these seats for very specific reasons. So we set that up. So the morning of Saturday, April 27th, we dropped into these roles and started doing what we do. So I'm kind of going to break this out just a little bit to kind of explain what these roles are doing during a severe weather event. Let's look first at our warning meteorologist. On this particular day, we started with 1, I think, then we got to 2. There's times during the day where we definitely had 3 issuing warnings at the same time. There's been events where we've had 4 different people issuing severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, in addition to a separate person doing flash flood warnings. These meteorologists are good at what they do. They are focused just on warnings. So they're not really supposed to be answering the phone. They're not supposed to be looking at the television coverage. They're not supposed to be in NWS chat. They're supposed to be immersed in the radar data. And it's a very collaborative position. So you do, like Scott and Vivek are the 2 warning forecasters in this picture. Scott has the authority to issue severe thunderstorm tornado warnings for any of the storms that he's monitoring. But it's almost never done in a vacuum. There's always discussion. There's always narration going on. I'm getting ready to issue a tornado warning. What do you think about this storm? That kind of thing. And we also sectorize our warning operations. So that means that we divide things up according to geography, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is what one of our computer workstations look like. This is Max, one of our meteorologists on a, I think this is actually on April 27th, I believe. But this is what our workstation looks like. It's basically 3 big monitors on our internal AWIP system. And then we have a PC and other things next to that. So Max, in this case, is looking at radar data, but most of the warning decisions that we make are based on radar data. There's a little bit closer look at that workstation, and he's really using that center workstation there to operate or run a program called WarnGen. That's our warning generation software, and that's where Max would be drawing a warning polygon encompassing where the storm is now and where we expect it to go, how fast we expect it to travel, what areas are going to be included in that warning. And we use an interface to draw the polygon. And then we have this interface, this GUI that pops up where we choose whether we're issuing a severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado warning, and then what kind of tornado warning. Is it a tornado emergency? Is it a considerable tag tornado warning? And then we pick the statements that appear at the bottom of the warning, is hail also expected, things like that. So pretty much when you see a tornado warning issued, in almost every case, the text of that warning has not been touched by a person. It's all templated, and then we just click, and hit create text. We get to preview the draft of the warning, and then we hit send. A little alarm bell pops up and says, are you really sure you want to send this? And then we send it out. Instantaneously, it's on weather radio. It's appearing on bugs and crawls of TV screens. It's on the Weather Channel. It's on apps. It's on the wireless emergency alerts if it's one of those warnings. So it's pushing one button, one click of the mouse, and it's everywhere instantly. When I talked about warning sectors earlier, this will vary by the event and it will change during the event. This is a screenshot of a radar image from the April 27th event. This was later in the event, getting toward evening. And we don't want one warning forecaster to have to keep up with all these storms. We literally have storms from the Kansas border all the way down to our southern border of our Texas counties in several different areas. So one of the ways we would sectorize this is to say, okay, warning forecaster number one, you take care of all the storms north of I-40, all those storms up in northern Oklahoma are yours. Warning forecaster number two, we've got a line of thunderstorms here in southwest Oklahoma down into western North Texas. Those are yours. And we're going to put a warning forecaster number three on these storms developing out here, because it was these storms in the open warm sector out ahead of that line. These became the tornadic supercells that we had been thinking about or warning people about all day. So we'd have a forecaster devoted to those. And again, this may change 10 times during the event where we say, okay, we're going to reorganize things, but there's always someone in the office to coordinate those messages and coordinate that interaction between the warning forecasters. All right, the warning forecasters are there. We have someone doing NWS chat, and this is really the open channel for communication between the Weather Service and our partners, the TV meteorologists, the emergency managers. That's where we talk about warning decisions that we're making. That's where we're talking about why we are or are not issuing tornado warnings. And this is what that position looks like. Usually that person is monitoring chat and putting stuff into chat. He's hearing what those warning forecasters are telling him as far as why they're doing what they're doing or what they're getting ready to do. We also are monitoring the local media. So the 4 main Oklahoma City TV stations, we have an application where we can watch all those together on a 4-panel screen because they provide valuable ground truth information, helicopter shots of developing storms, things like that. And this is just a few examples of what you might see in NWS chat. The top one there saying that we're getting ready to issue a new tornado warning for Caddo County so that we can get lead time into El Reno, other messages there. And it's two-way communication. So we're also getting reports from the field about flooding or damage or things like that. So that's a very valuable tool for us. A lot of times we'll try to have what we call a safety net. And this is a person usually that's really good in radar interpretation. And they will kind of be sitting off to the side on their own workstation. What they're doing is keeping an eye kind of on the big picture. They're not really zoomed down to the level that one of the warning forecasters is on just these 3 counties with the storms there. They're looking at everything, and they're looking at all available data, and they're there to kind of be a consultant for the warning forecasters to give them advice and guidance. So if Vivek wants to issue a tornado warning, but he's just not sure, he can ask the safety net, have you noticed the rotation increasing on this? What are you looking at? And it may be, it looks like it's trending down, or I saw that the winds are backing and out ahead of that storm, so that may increase the tornado potential. So they're they're another set of eyes on the storms, and that we found that to be extremely valuable. The whole other side of the room is doing critically important stuff too. We always break out a separate meteorologist to handle like the flash flood warnings. It's very difficult as a warning forecaster to switch your mindset between tornadoes and flash flooding. So we try to break that out. Mesoanalysts are a critical part. That's analyzing the small scale atmosphere, where the storms are and where they're going. Are they moving into an environment that could cause them to produce more tornadoes, for example? We have to coordinate with the SPC on any new watches coming out. We're doing graphics for the website. The phone's ringing. We're getting calls on the radio, things like that. And we still have to keep those routine products going out of the office. So that's all going on the other side of the room. Now, when we're making those warning decisions, we're really basing them on the preponderance of the evidence. We have a lot of evidence that we're looking at. The majority of the time, warning decisions are based primarily on radar interpretation, analysis, and also on ground truth. What's really going on in the environment, in the communities that we're warning for. But there's a lot of other variables that go into it, and this is not a complete list. What kind of environment are the storms in? What has this storm done over the last 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours? What's the history? Forecaster intuition and experience plays into this for sure. We have forecasters in our office that have been here for every major severe weather event from May 3rd, 99 through last year. So they have a lot of experience. Intuition, that's a part of it. It's a science, but there is some art to it as well. We have conceptual models in our head. Well, we know how a supercell looks and how the airflow should be around that storm. How does that compare with what I'm seeing on radar? And then there's impact-based decisions that are made too. So radar, we already talked about that. We're monitoring the media. Oklahoma City media, each station has their own helicopter. This is not unusual to see, 4 simultaneous pictures of a tornado from slightly different vantage points from all the TV stations. Doesn't always happen. It didn't happen on April 27th at night because that was kind of outside the Oklahoma City station's coverage area, and it wasn't happening. The tornadoes weren't visible at night, really. So damage reports are coming in through the media. We have storm spotters that we're talking to. They're relaying information to us. We get a lot of information from storm chasers. They're storm chasers that really help us out by either tagging us on X or sending us a report on Spotter Network, or however they're getting reports to us, calling us on the phone, old school. We get reports all those different ways. We're trying to skim social media and see what's there. That's harder to do now, but we do get valuable reports if somebody tags us. Cameron Nixon had a tornado on April 27th, early in the event, and tagged us so we could see that. There's lots of other sources. We may be watching storm chaser video streams if they're out there and we know about them. We're getting phone calls in, text messages, MPing, which is an app that you can use to make reports of severe weather. So there's just a flood of information coming in during those events. One of the jobs of management and the coordinator during severe weather, and really all of us here in the office, is we have to take care of ourselves. When you ignore that pre-flight briefing on an airplane, they always talk about put your oxygen mask on before you put the one on your child or whoever you're with. You can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself. So we try to watch carefully so that one meteorologist is not sitting there issuing tornado warnings for 15 consecutive hours. We try to rotate people into different roles. We try to encourage people as much as possible to take brain breaks. It's hard if you're the warning forecaster on a tornadic supercell. You can't really hit pause and, go walk around and take a breath. But we encourage however you can to rest your brain. It's not uncommon to start a severe weather event at 9:50 in the morning. And then about 7 o'clock at night, things quiet down a little bit. And you're like, wait a minute, we never ate lunch, much less dinner. So we have to kind of, hopefully we have someone who can break off a little bit and say, okay, I'm ordering pizza for the office or whatever. And then we're also watching each other for signs of fatigue, or people starting to get overloaded, or they starting to make little errors or things that they're saying. We also watch for signs of critical incident stress, because doing this job, we're not first responders, but you are very much exposed indirectly to the trauma that's going on out there in the world. So we watch each other for signs of that as well. And there are impacts to the staff. There have been multiple events where the warning forecasters, the meteorologists here in the office, have had family impacted by tornadoes, by severe weather, by flooding. This is my example. I got multiple examples, but one of them, this was May 6, 2015. This is my house, is where home is right there at the time. And that red polygon is the tornado warning. That's a big supercell with a hook, and you can see what looks like a debris ball there at the end of the hook. Terrifyingly close to my house. So I'm in the office. I'm handling all the duties that we're doing here. It's, everybody, all hands on deck. But I'm getting text from my wife, and this is the text I'm getting. Notice there's no responses to those texts, and she and my kids are in our tornado shelter in the floor of our garage. I hear a siren. I see power flashes. We think we can hear the tornado. It's very windy. Our fence is going to be gone. The power's out. And I'm getting all that while I'm also trying to do all the other work that we're doing. So that's challenging. And I mean, if my house had been hit by a tornado and I needed to go home, we would have made arrangements for me to go home. But this is the kind of thing that goes on. And this goes on in hurricane offices. Every office in the Weather Service somehow has their version of this too. Now, at the tail end of the event, when it gets more into what I call the response phase, what are we going to, okay, a big tornado just hit Marietta, Oklahoma. What do we need to do about that? Well, as was the case on the April 27th event, the warnings just kept going. We didn't stop issuing warnings for several hours after those tornadoes hit South Central Oklahoma. So you've got to deal with that first and foremost, but you also have to start planning, okay, we know there is significant damage down there in South Central Oklahoma. We're going to need to do damage surveys. So how in the world are we going to do that? So you start to thinking about, okay, of all the storms we've had today, where were the worst ones? Where do we think the worst damage has happened? Where do we need to go? Who's available to go do those surveys? One of our main survey people is wrapping up a 16-hour day. I don't think they're going to be wanting to come in here at 6 o'clock in the morning and go drive for 12 hours tomorrow to do damage surveys, coordinating that information with local officials. So all that is going on. Sometimes as someone's still issuing warnings, someone else has kind of broken off and they're starting to plan the response phase. The media inquiries, well, they're happening before the tornadoes, but while the tornadoes are still going on, we're getting calls from the Associated Press wanting to know what the intensity of the tornado is. The debris is still falling out of the air. We don't know, but there is a need for immediate information. And on big events, the May 20th, 2013 tornado was the most dramatic example I can think of. We were approached by the media from internationally, from Australia to South America we got 6 different interviews with the BBC in London. I didn't know there were that many parts of the BBC. So the media can be overwhelming to the point where sometimes we have to get help from other people in the building or from our regional headquarters. And part of what we're doing is we are part of the government and the Weather Service and NOAA and the Department of Commerce. Our leadership needs to be informed, because in some cases, this is going all the way up to the White House, to the FEMA level. So we have to keep them apprised of where we are and what's happening too. And then April 27th, that event ends at whatever time it was in the morning that we issued the last warning. And then it's time to get ready to do it all again. So this is a calendar showing all the day one SPC outlooks from the last week of April at the top all the way through the end of May. There's April 27th with that black border around it. Well, we had a slight risk again on the 28th. We didn't have a day without some risk of severe weather until May the 10th after that. So a lot of times it's going to be day after day after day. And that makes it challenging to do damage surveys, because how are you going to go do damage surveys? Number one, if you need all the people in the office to issue warnings for the next round of storms, or number two, the area that you're going to was flooded also after the tornadoes yesterday. So there's a lot going on. So, all right, I'm going to shift gears now. We're winding down here, but I'm going to shift gears now from talking real tornadoes to talking movie tornadoes, because one of the things and I enjoy talking about is kind of, if you've seen the movie Twisters, and hopefully if you're on this, if you cared enough to be on the Jamposium, I'm assuming you've probably seen Twisters. If you didn't, I won't ask why, but that's fine. I mean, you do you. But it was a big movie this past summer, and we were able, fortunately, to be involved in aspects of it. So we're going to talk about how we were involved just briefly in the movie. For background, the movie Twisters, which came out in July of last year of 2024, was shot entirely in the state of Oklahoma in the year 2023. And they started shooting May 8th, went through the middle of July. They had an actor strike where they had to go back and stop everything. And then they came back to finish in December. So some of the scenes you see in Twister, like the rodeo scene, the swimming pool scene in the rodeo, some of the scenes in Crystal Springs where there's damage, parts of those scenes were shot when it was 95 degrees in middle of July. And then they had to finish shooting those scenes in early December where the wind chills were in the 20s. And they had to make it all look so there was no seam, so you couldn't tell which was which. So they did have to deal with a lot of real life weather while they were here. So that was their shooting schedule. We started having interactions with the production in January of 2023. We had a location scout come and visit our building. The script called for Kate, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, to run away from Oklahoma and go work for the National Weather Service. So they knew they needed a weather service office in the movie. So they were coming to see what ours looked like since they're shooting here. And so they came in January. The producers and the director came back in February to look in more detail. And then we had an army of production design people come in March, and they invaded the office and took pictures of every single thing in our office, from pencils to the trash cans to our phones to the hand sanitizer, because the movie cannot be completely realistic, but wherever they could, they really did strive to be as realistic as possible. So they did a good job of that. I'll talk about more of this in a minute, but May of 2023, we actually got to do a class for some of the cast and crew. Throughout those times and extending into the summer, we also provided consultation on set design, what should be on the Weather Service monitors. We provided props, so people on the school group touring the Weather Service office in the movie, the lanyards they're wearing and the lanyards that the characters in the movie are wearing are our lanyards that we let them borrow because they wanted it to look real. They had a full-time meteorologist providing weather support, but we would sometimes help that full-time meteorologist, because in some days there would be a cast and crew of 400 people out on a dirt road in the middle of southeastern Kingfisher County with no good shelter anywhere really nearby. So they had a lot of detailed weather support. So we would help on the edges of that, helped with weather safety. Other parts of NOAA, the Severe Storms Lab, two of their mobile mesonet vehicles got to drive out to Fairview, Oklahoma, and be on the set for two scenes, and you can see them in the background. Every time there's a NOAA Weather Service logo in the movie or images of the phased array radar or a lot of the stuff in the end credits, they had to get approval or clearance from NOAA to use that. Anyway, lots of things. And NOAA personnel got to go to the official movie premieres in Los Angeles and Oklahoma City. So that was very cool too. Our part of it, for the minute and 29 seconds that I think the Weather Service appears in the movie, we got to be the prototype for that office. So that's the New York City forecast office. That's the actual sign outside of our door. So they, down to almost the font and the style of the lettering, they copied it. Or we have a display up the front of our office. So that's Director Isaac Chung on one of the visits to our office. And then the top picture is their version of that display system up at the front of the room. So they did a really good job of making a Weather Service office. I wish you could see more detail in the movie because it's amazing. That's the 8 monitors on their big situational awareness display system. They have a lot more workstations than we do, and they had like 30 people working in the office. I wish we had that many, but that's movie stuff. But everything on every monitor in that office is real data. So it's either a website, it's something that they've gotten a canned loop of to run on there, the loop sub. So everything that you see in the movie is real weather data. There's a picture of the day that we're shooting the weather service scene with Daisy Edgar Jones talking to one of the actors there. And you can see the monitors there in the foreground. That's actual gridded forecast editor data, actual satellite data. That's what AWIPS looks like in our office. So I don't know. Again, not many people are going to geek out about it like we do here, but it's just cool. If you could see the detail. The work schedule that they have over sitting off to the side is an exact replica of our work schedule. I don't know. I could do a whole presentation just on that, but I'll shut up. Finally, one of the coolest things I got to do and we got to do was we got to do training. They called and the production office wanted to do some type of training for the cast and crew. I asked, do you want spotter training? Do you want safety training? Do you want training to help them understand more about tornadoes as background for their characters? And they said yes to all of that. So we got to do a 2-hour class, and most of the main cast was there, and some of the crew, the producers, director, other people like that. But I got to spend 2 hours talking to them about tornadoes, tornado culture, everything you can imagine. So it was really, really cool. This was a couple of days before they started shooting. So this is the first time a lot of them had even gotten together. So it really, they said later, this helped to really get them started in that team camaraderie. But it was really cool. And we took some pictures of it. I wish I knew what they were laughing at there, what I said that was funny, or maybe they were laughing at me. I'm not sure. But there's the director and Daisy Edgar Jones, who played Kate, and Glenn Powell, who played Tyler, sat front row center. Daisy had a notebook and she opened it up and she took notes the entire time. I was super impressed. She had already done research into severe weather, tornado forecasting and things like that. So that was super cool. You can see the other characters there, and that's our little class picture at the end. So on the list of things I never thought I'd get to do as a meteorologist, this is right up there. So, but again, we're proud of our involvement. It's not a documentary about tornadoes. It's not going to be perfect, but man, they really did try to make it as accurate as possible. So, all right, that is all the slides I have. So we've got a little bit of time here for questions.
Yeah, we have about 7 minutes. And going back to the storm on April 27th, Angie was asking, was that those storms, were they forecast to be at night?
Yeah, we did expect that there would be multiple waves of storms. We knew that there would be a wave of storms in the afternoon. And in fact, we had tornadic supercells in our Texas counties late that afternoon. In fact, I wasn't here for the brunt of the event because I knew that there had been a big tornado in Texas and I was going to have to come in super early to survey. So I went home a little bit earlier. So I missed the core of this, but we ended up surveying a lot more. But yeah, but we did have some idea that there would be a second wave at night. So yeah, I think a lot of people in central Oklahoma thought that all the tornadoes and all the storms were going to be during the daylight like they typically are. But we definitely, it was not a surprise to have those tornadoes happen at night. That's a good question.
Our next question, actually, you just segued well into this. It's from a gentleman named Rick. Do you feel pressure to complete storm damage surveys? It seems there is pressure to determine EF levels while you guys are still recovering from the long days.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like pressure. I mean, we're going to do our job. We want to survey the tornadoes as quickly as possible because the evidence is cleaned up. And you know, if you wait too long, you're not going to be able to really get an accurate rating. So our goal is to get out there and survey the worst damage as quick as possible and try to get the basics. And our goal is always to get something out to the public and to the media by mid-afternoon in time for the evening news and to get something out there. It may be preliminary, but yeah, I mean, we know that lots of people want to know that rating. I'll be perfectly honest, a large number of the people that think they need to know that rating just want to know that rating because they're curious. So we're not going to rush. unnecessarily, but we're gonna get it done as fast as we can, but doing it the right way. Good question.
Okay, and then Angela, going off on that one, you just answered how important it is to rate it quickly, but she wants to know, you're not supposed to pre-rate one as it's happening. You're just supposed to describe it, correct?
Right. Yeah. And we see that all the time. We see it in the media and other places where, um, somebody's looking at a tornado and says, "Oh, that looks like an EF3 or whatever." You can't really do that reliably. You can't look at a tornado because the size doesn't matter. The ultimate rating of it depends on where it is. So it can be a mile wide tornado with, as we've seen, a 2.6 mile wide tornado with over 300-mile-an-hour winds that only gets rated EF3 because it did not strike enough things for us to rate that tornado. So yeah, no, but we do try, like I said, we do try to do it as quickly as possible. But to get that final rating, sometimes it takes days and sometimes weeks to really analyze all the data. So we'll get something out quick, and then we're going to continue to look at it.
Okay, we're going to change topics here a little bit. A question from Matt. Are there any plans to increase National Weather Service office staffing with increasing amounts of extreme weather?
Wow, that's we could talk about that question, but I don't know. Right now, the environment that we're in, it's like the opposite of that in some speculation, but I don't know. I mean, we definitely have an important job to do, and there's definitely arguments to be made for things like that. But there's no short-term plans to dramatically change the staffing, as far as I know.
Okay, and then Jana is asking, can their local weather service office provide trainings for employers about severe weather? Because it has not been taken as seriously for big corporations, much less the general public where they live.
We definitely can. I mean, and this varies from office to office, but we've gone out and done training for companies, safety training. We do all the local weather service offices go out and do all kinds of training and outreach like that. So yeah, you could check with the local office and see if they're willing to do that because, but yeah, big companies, factories, warehouses, whatever, they have a lot of people under their care.
Okay, and then we have a question from Nick. What are operations like for you when you are helping to cover another office? And how is the workload balanced between your typical operations and assisting another weather forecast office?
Yeah, that can be a challenge. We have to staff that just like we're staffing anything else. So if we know there's a tornado outbreak this afternoon and it's mainly going to be over North Texas that may impact the Fort Worth office, we may very well just have somebody extra in our office who has a workstation sitting there already set up to be the Fort Worth office. So it essentially takes one person away from our operations for our local area. But that's the people in the Fort Worth area responsibility need the information just like people in our area, and we're going to do whatever we can to get that to make that a seamless transition. But yeah, it's a strain. It can be a strain because it does require one or two extra people that aren't doing anything for our local weather.
And then I'm just going to ask a really quick question. I noticed in your talk you were saying how you guys have to decide if you're going to issue a tornado warning or tornado emergency. Can you just quickly describe what the difference is between the two?
Yeah, the tornado emergency is supposed to be a very rare message that we issue when we have extremely high confidence that there is a destructive, a disastrous, life-threatening tornado ongoing. It's not, uh, either visually we see the tornado, we're not issuing a tornado emergency if we don't see it. And so with some radar confirmation, either by the intensity of the rotational velocity or other factors. So yeah, we did issue one this past May. Been a long time since we had issued one, but it's the highest level of warning message that you can get. It means, people may die in the path of this tornado.
Okay, and I might get in trouble. I'm asking one more question that just came in. Somebody is a graduate who graduated with a meteorology degree but focused on research is curious if there's a way to learn AWIPS.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I would definitely try to get in touch with whatever your nearest weather service office is. I know that there are versions of AWIPS that are online that you can use, I don't know if it's for free, but there are ways to learn that. Some of the training that we take to use AWIPS for warnings and other things are available online. So check with your local office, kind of search around online, and the Warning Decision Training Division, part of the National Weather Service, does a lot of our training. So you may find things on their website.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Rick. This is Rick Smith, the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Norman, Oklahoma. I wish we could have done this for a few more hours because you had so many cool things to say, and I know I learned a lot during your presentation. So thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks to you and all of your coworkers for all that you do for the National Weather Service.
Thank you, Marissa. Glad to be here.
Well, yes, Rick and Marissa, thank you so much. That was incredibly informative, and yeah, we appreciate you bringing that to our audience. And audience, this brings our Experts Talk Tornadoes webinar to a close. But please stay tuned because coming up next is Climate Conversations, Bridging Science, Stories, and Solutions. And that's coming to you at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So see you there. But until then, take care.